Coffee Pot Conversations.
Bonjour et bienvenue to Coffee Pot Conversations, the podcast that aims to give you that something a little bit different of Paris. My name is Paul, and I'm here to try to show you Paris like a visitor, not a tourist. So, grab yourself a coffee, settle in, let's enjoy Paris together. Yes, hello and welcome to Coffee Pot Conversations, episode 6.3. Do you really need to visit the Louvre? So, this is episode 6.3 of Coffee Pot Conversations. Do you really need to visit the Louvre? Where I don't actually give you an answer, really, but that's kind of what the old title was all about. It is to capture and draw you in. I'm going to move a little bit closer to the camera because I just feel like I'm too far away. I say camera, it's still my mobile phone, still with me DJI Mic Mini 2, although I've now bought a DJI Mic Mini 2S. Rory tells me I don't need another set of microphones, so I'll probably listen to him for this season at least. What's the difference? It's got 32-bit floating and internal recording, which is like the DJI Mic 2, which I've got, which is the bigger ones, but colour changes, you know, there's episode X point yellow. So anyway, what's been going on is Paris has had the hottest July in record, and it's now August, so everyone leaves. Or do they? Well, that will be an episode much later on down the street. Maybe season 8, because that'll be the next summer set of episodes. This really should be the coming up section. But anyway, I was last week sound engineer for my dad's dance, and by sound engineer I mean the music wasn't coming out, so I had to do what was needed with the assistance of Rory. He's learning tricks of the trade and how to keep calm when things are going whoopsie woo woos all around you, which is great. They're currently asleep at the time of recording this, they being Rory and Jasper. We had a trip to Westcliff-on-Sea. You know, some may call it the Essex Riviera. I don't actually think anyone does, but that's that. So that is actually it for the beginning part. I'm just checking this new notes app that I'm using on my phone. Yeah, Post-it. Post-it is gonna stop being used as an app, so I'm a little bit devastated by that. Not to worry, quickly checking my notes, we can see that that's it. Now it's over to Paul with the news. Paul. Thanks, Paul. Republic will be shut for 9 months on line 8 between Ballard and Pont du Lac, which is the bottom left, through the middle, over to the bottom right of Paris. We still have lines 3, 5, 9 and 11 available. In April 2027 will be when line 8 reopens at Republic with new platforms, not only to look pretty and big, but to also handle the new MF19 rolling stock. Don't really know what that looks like. But it's actually part of an 8-year plan covering all the platforms. So Platform 9 will be closed in 2028 to 29. Platform 5 will be 29 to 2030. 2029 to 2030. Platform 11 will be 2031 to 2032. And finally, Platform 3, the last platform of Republic to be modernised for the MF19 rolling stock. They'll probably have new trains by then. Will be, as I say, Platform 3, and that's over in 2033 to 2034. Next on the news, we have the major upcoming celestial event, the Solar Eclipse Countdown, and that's on Wednesday, August the 12th, the day after the release of this episode. So if you're listening after that, you've missed it. But it's a citywide sky gazing event, and it's a near total partial solar eclipse. So it's near total but a partial solar eclipse, and it's going to be 92% occultation at dusk. Occultation at dusk, yep. Pretty much 92% of the sun's going to be covered by the moon. It's about 6 o'clock at night. Pretty much you're going to need to be high up to have a proper view, because that time of night sun's going to be dipping, especially be it August time. Yeah, time's are ticking. It's running up to winter, I'm afraid. But local optical shops and planetariums across Paris are distributing certified viewing glasses. Just to let you know that prime viewing spots are the Champ de Mars, the Sacré-Cœur Steps and Parc de Beauchaumont. So they are expected to draw massive evening crowds. Plus it being, you know, an August Sunday evening, the touristy spots are going to be fairly busy. We also have on the news, a sad bit of news for those of you in the know, the Didier Decompte. He died last week at the age of 81. He was a novelist and a screenwriter, most famously known in more modern times for the television adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo. He was also president of the Académie Goncourt from 2020 to 2024. So our thoughts and best wishes are with his family and friends. The arrangement in grey and black number 1, also known as Whistler's Mother, is a famous 1871 painting by James, I've got to stop kicking the table, McNeill Whistler. And it features Anna, his mother. Now, it's normally in residency in the Musée d'Orsay after France bought it in 1891. It was in both the Musée de Luxembourg and the Louvre beforehand, and now, until 27th of September, it's currently in the Tate Britain, which is in Millbank in London. Finally, I really do need to check my notes for this. We have the French presidential elections taking place in April 2027. Yes, I know it's a long way ahead, and I know it's politics. But what I'm going to do, because I'm in my spreadsheets at the minute, and tables and charts and stuff like that, is I'm going to, each first of the month, I'm going to keep a note of all this. So let me just read through what's going on. We have Marine Le Pen from the Rassemblement National, or the National Rally. They're at the far right, and their latest first round polling is 34 to 37%. Then we have Edouard Philippe of the Horizons, or Horizon, and they are the centre right, and their latest first round polling is 14 to 22%. Then we have Jean-Luc Mélenchon, which is La France Insoumise, or France Unbowed. And that's left to far left, and their latest first round polling is 13 to 16%. Obviously, we've got ever so margins involved here. Gabriel Attal, and again, he's another President Macron who isn't allowed to stand because he's done his time, so to speak. He's another Prime Minister, as was Edouard Philippe. So Gabriel Attal of the Renaissance Party, he's a centrist. And his first round polling is 7.5% to 16.5%, which is quite a wide gap. Raphael Glucksmann of the Place Publique, or the public place, centre left, 8.5% to 12%, and Bruno Retailleau of the Les Républicains, the Republicans, right wing, 7 to 12%. Now, the way that this works is if there's no clear winner, they have a second round runoff, which is where the top two from the first round go on head to head, where sort of tactics come into play. If you may not want someone, but you don't want the other one, then you vote for a third to knock out all the others. And then the first and the third, it's politics, isn't it? Anyway, so they reckon at the minute that if it's going to go to Le Pen versus Philippe, then Le Pen will win roughly 52 to 48%. Le Pen versus Attal, who I'm not going to say much, but I think I like him more, is 54 to 46%. Now, Le Pen versus Mélenchon will be a wide margin, so that is 2/3 of the vote. Yeah. So they think that sort of Marine Le Pen and Jean-Luc Mélenchon, there won't be a close competition, but you can see it's still sort of leaning towards the left. But politics aside and statistics at the forefront, I will be doing each first of the month, I'm going to make a note of where these polls are, getting ready for April because, hey, you know, there's not enough of my life going on. But that's it. And now it's time for this, which could be absolutely anywhere. And I've just clicked things in front of my face. There's so many no-nos in the world of video podcasting, especially when you're listening to it.
Coffee pot conversations.
What is Paris without a trip to the Louvre? Well, I've been 5 or 6 times without having steps inside, and it honestly didn't bother me. For years, before seeing the IP-made glass pyramid in real life, which I actually saw quite often, I thought it was the entrance to the Pompidou Centre, which I actually confused with what I thought was the Atomium in Brussels. But that was over 30 years ago, so I may even have confused that with another landmark. Did I feel like I'd seen Paris without stepping inside the Louvre? Was I shortchanged? Personally, I thought that I had seen Paris and was by no means shortchanged. In fact, by not entering the Louvre or ascending the Eiffel Tower, I'd got to see more of Paris than I expected, or that I'd even thought was around to see. Yes, my first trip 20 years ago had me up on the 2nd floor of the Eiffel Tower, but it was such a huge whistle-stop tour around Paris that I hadn't really taken much in. I zoomed from there to Notre Dame, onto the Arc de Triomphe, down the Champs-Élysées, and back to Gare du Nord. It was a rather quick trip. And whilst I remember it, I wouldn't say it left a mark on me. When I returned many years later, I took myself around a whole lot more of Paris. I don't actually recall stopping at any famous landmarks except to take photos as I walked past. And the only place I really went into were Monoprix and Gare Lafayette. But by exploring Paris in that way, being a flâneur, allowed me to see so much more of Paris. And it was these 40,000 steps that catapulted Paris into my heart and created my first blog entry, available to read on anenglishmaninparis.blog. It wasn't until Nev came with me in December 2021 that I actually went inside the Louvre. She wanted to go to Paris for a birthday, and as I'd finished my master's degree, any research I was conducting, any photos I collected, were simply for future reference, such as I'm using now. Did I enjoy it? Was it a waste of time? Do I wish I'd been sooner? Or did Nev think? Did I enjoy the Louvre? I did, but I wish I'd spent more time in there, taking in more of what was actually in there. When I do museums in London, I tend to take a whole day, or at least 5 to 6 hours, floor by floor, reading, reflecting and taking photos of the objects I'm viewing. In my family, because I used to take the boys when they were younger, I gave the main museums of London different names to help them work out which was which. We had the Rocket Museum, the Dinosaur Museum, the Toy Museum and the Mummy Museum. Whilst the boys have grown up, I still refer back to these names. Yeah, but I can be sentimental at times. And that was sentimental, not semi-mental. So, the Louvre, first time around, wasn't fully covered, but we did enough to get what Oliver G calls Louvre legs. We were there for around 4 hours, and yes, we did see the Mona Lisa. But I think it was something that we thought we should do as we were there, rather than going to see it. Whilst I appreciate a good painting, it wasn't quite what I expected. But I won't spoil the experience, as you may have different expectations than my personal ones. It was located in the middle of the room with a queue that took probably 10 minutes or so to get through. It was framed by glass, which is bulletproof, and about 10 feet away. That's probably around 3 metres. Now, depending on when you get around to listening to this episode, it may have changed, as the Louvre is undergoing, or has undergone, an extensive renovation. In July 2025, Rachida Dati announced the launch of the Louvre's Nouvelle Renaissance transformation. A part of this momentous plan is to include a standalone gallery for the Mona Lisa. Where it was when I went with Nev, and the following year with the boys, had a few other paintings that were half ignored, as people tried to snap the Mona Lisa from afar, whilst whiling away the waiting time. These were some beautiful works, but some were a little too high in the walls to truly take in their magnificence. Another part of the Nouvelle Renaissance is to make the entrance more refined, with thoughts of using the Parode colonnade. This would then, in theory, take the total number of entrances to 5. Yet, there are already 4 in operation. There's the main pyramid. That's the most impressive, most available one. Then there is the one in Passage Richelieu, which if you saw season 3, you'd see me walking through. This entrance is for those on guided tours or with a membership card. The Galerie du Carrousel, which is the underground secret one that people on Instagram tell you about. It takes you past the souvenir shop and into the ticketing hall. And then there's a Porte de Lyons, hit and miss, closed on Fridays, and you'll need a ticket. There are some amazing experts on the Louvre. I am not one of them. Although you can expect an episode. I am merely a visitor to the museum/art gallery, and yes, I do like it there. It's not an easy one-day visit, but it's worthwhile if you like history or paintings from years ago. And yes, this is merely one museum of over 130 in Paris. A check on Google and the best will give you lists that tend to name, with a certain degree of flexibility, the same 10. These obviously include the Louvre, but also the Musée Jacquemart-André, Musée Ravin, Musée d'Orsay, Musée de l'Orangerie, and the Musée Carnavalet, which is the oldest City of Paris museum, not to be confused with the oldest museum in the city of Paris. What's the best direction to take a talk for a few minutes? Well, I think it's best that I should disclose some important information. A lot of my knowledge comes from research that I carry out, and if there's anything from my experiences of Paris that I can call upon, I will. But I honestly do try and talk about what I know. I'm not going to rabbit on, for instance, about Picasso Museum and how good it is, how interesting it is to visit and see works from his personal collection. That do include Degas, Cézanne and Matisse. The reason being, I've never been. I may mention that they're there, but I'll never pass a personal opinion on the actual museum as I've never been. I'll merely point out the facts that I've learned. And this applies to all my episodes. With that said, Nev has been at 2 museums that I've merely walked past. So, having created an ado, here's a quick interview with Nev telling us her thoughts. Nev, I've merely walked past 2 museums that you've been to. What museums were they?
Petit Palais and Musée d'Orsay.
And what did you think of aforementioned museums?
Do you want some plus and minuses for both?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, I'm going to start. My personal favourite was Petit Palais. I'm not an artsy person. I don't really know a lot about art. I'm not going to sit and claim that I do. But I think for me, Petit Palais, I was on my own because you was doing your interviews at the time, and I was on my own. And I think it's one of those places where you're perfectly fine on your own. It wasn't overwhelming, as I often find museums to be. Like the Louvre, it's amazing, but it's just huge, isn't it? And you get completely lost in there, and you've got to go more than once to kind of get to know the place. With Petit Palais, it's just such a chilled environment, and it was really calming. And it isn't particularly big, but the building itself is stunning. It almost looks like it should be a red carpet event as you're walking into the building. And it used to be a palace anyway. Well, it was framed as a palace. It's opposite the Grand Palais anyway. But I like there was sculptures all in the middle foyer bits, and there's this beautiful staircase as well that winds around. Was really lovely. I like Roman and Greek.
Grown men?
No, Roman.
Oh, Romans.
And Greek. Antiquities, I just think that what am I trying to say? Antiquities, so for me, it was one of my favourites, so I really did love it. And I like sculptures anyway, more so. There was a Monet in there, if people are interested in Monet in particular. There's a really nice section of it and a few of his paintings. I think Renoir is also in there, I think. Is it Renoir? I'm looking at no, it's Rembrandt. Renoir's in the other one. As well, so if you were kind of interested in those sorts of things, I think you would like Petit Palais. The best thing about Petit Palais, if you're not really into the arts and you just want to go in and just admire a beautiful building and just walk around, is the courtyard. Now, I was a bit too shy. I did not go into the cafe. It was November, so it wasn't a particularly warm day, but I think if you go in spring in particular, the courtyard, it's got like a circular, semicircle kind of view, and it's beautiful parkland with a pond, and the cafe is just stunning. So I'd recommend, if you go, please go to the cafe. Don't do what I did and didn't go. It was really nice.
But you didn't go because you were shy at the museum cafe.
Yeah.
But did you not go to La Favorite in
I did, yeah.
just off Rue de Rivoli, yeah.
If I ordered in English, it wasn't so bad. But here I was a bit nervous. I don't know what it was. Something about it I didn't do. But it was really nice.
Intimidation or just a shyness?
I think it was just a shyness thing. I don't know. I mean, I remember looking in, it was really busy, and I think that kind of put me off a little bit. I don't know, just a bit of shyness.
Do you find that with Paris generally, that you couldn't go somewhere by yourself?
No, I don't think so. I think this was just the one place for some reason I just...
Sort of highbrow academics.
Maybe, I don't know, but I am a highbrow academic, so it's not that either. I don't know, I think it was just, I didn't hear a lot of people speaking English, I think, which, not that I can't speak French, I can, enough to order something and get
Un
by.
café s'il vous plaît.
Exactly, I could do it if I really had to, but I don't know, for some reason I didn't, but it was lovely, and I would definitely recommend it. And if I went back, which I do want to go back, I'd go to the coffee shop and order a coffee myself in there, and it was just really nice. But I think if you've got some time to kill, and it's one of those things where you don't need a lot of time, enough for just to mill about a couple of hours, and you don't want something too big, overwhelming, I would really recommend Petit Palais. In fact, I do think it should be one of the top 5 places that you visit when you go to Paris is Petit Palais, definitely. I don't regret it, I loved it. I was inspired by TikTok, I have to admit, because people kept talking about it in TikTok, and I thought, I'm going to go, and I'm really glad I did. That to me stands out. Of all the ones I've been to, I quite like Petit Palais. I'd recommend it. For me, it's number 1.
I hate lists. It's other people's lists because it's like, well, you've gone and everyone makes you famous, so I tend not to advocate lists. But what's the top 5 places to visit in Paris then? I know it's totally off topic, but let's go for it. Top 5 places in Paris to visit.
Top 5 places. Petit Palais would be one of them. Now, I haven't been to the Orangery, the Tuileries. I want to go to the Orangery and Tuileries. I haven't done that yet, so I don't know. But currently, from what I've gone and seen, I think Petit Palais. I think the Latin Quarter in general, the whole area, I really like the Latin Quarter. I think it's lovely.
Is that full of academics?
Yeah, probably. I just like the vibe. I really love it. It's just, it just feels quite comforting. I don't know. And I'm not Latin, as everyone keeps to think I am. I'm really not. But maybe that's why I find it quite comforting. But I do like the Latin Quarter a lot. I think it's really, really nice. I like the island that we went to. What was the island? Huh?
It wasn't Louis.
Yeah, the island, just definitely explore the island. It's not somewhere you think to go.
We will do the morning sunrise one day.
I promise next time we'll do the morning
next
sunrise.
time?
Yes. Well, no, November, no.
If you want the morning. No.
We will go and do it at some point. But that will be 3, the island. It was just, I love the island. It was really surprising for me. And it was just I don't know, it's not your traditional kind of place that everyone wants to go to. But I do think the island was really beautiful and just a lovely little place to explore. There's always somewhere to eat anywhere you go in Paris. You're never short for food, but I just thought it was really lovely. That'd be 3. Where else have we been?
Been loads of places.
We have. If we're talking about museums, I love the Louvre. I do. I know it's where everybody goes anyway, and there's a reason for that, to be honest. It's one of those things that, yeah, it's a cliche, it might be for a reason, but I think the Louvre would definitely be, again, on my list. And Musée d'Orsay I did really like. I found it a bit overwhelming, more so than the Louvre myself. It's smaller, so it felt a bit more compact, and so there was a lot of people in there, whereas the Louvre, the plus side of being so big, you can mill about quite easily, but Musée d'Orsay felt very tight and full of people when I went, and it was March, it wasn't particularly high season, so I found that quite a lot and quite overwhelming at times, busy in certain areas. But then there was famous things to see in there that everyone wants to see, like the little bronze sculpture of the little dancer girl. That's really beautiful, I really like that. There's Van Gogh's Starry Night is in there, and so again, those 2 things everyone will go and kind of stand by. The other place people stand by is the clock. It's part of the cafe, and people stand in front of the cafe looking at this clock, so it like makes it all congested looking at the clock. Cafe is another place everyone wants to go soon. It's completely packed all the time, very, very busy. I didn't go, it was just too busy for me, but the food looked lovely and it smelled amazing actually. So I think if people like museum cafes, I think that is definitely one you wouldn't want to miss. I think it was really quite nice. There was kind of, it's built in different sections of the museum because obviously it used to be an old railway, so you've got some beautiful parts of it still where it was the restaurant and the hotel, and then you've got the bits that were actually the railway in the middle as you walk in, which are there's some sculptures there. There's some really controversial pieces as well in there which I really quite liked. people talk about them being controversial. I quite like them as well. The marble structures, they're really nice. I think for me, it just depends what you want to see in Paris. It depends who you are and what you want to do. If you just want to eat all the time, there's food everywhere. If you're a museum person, you want to do all the museums, you can do that. If you just want to walk around and do nothing and mill about and just people watch, everywhere is that. You know, I just think it really just depends. And each arrondissement has got such beautiful things to it, and it's just nice for different things. So I really like the night that we stayed in. Was it the ninth? One of the first times. I liked that. That was probably another one of my favourite, was the 9th. I really enjoyed that. But then I also enjoyed the 19th, which is totally different. So the 20th, all right, there you go, totally different. The 19th I didn't like, I think. Have I not stayed in the 19th? But we went into the 19th, didn't we?
I think we glanced into the 19th when we went for our nighttime walk.
That's it, the nighttime walk. So I think it just depends. But what's your top 5?
I don't do top 5s. Find your own top 5. That's what I tell people. You can do. You've got your obvious bits. Again, I know it's my podcast cliche. Do it like a visitor, not a tourist. You've got the Louvre. You've got Notre Dame now. You've got Eiffel Tower. They're sort of the main Champs-Élysées and Arc de Triomphe. Yeah, you got your big ones, but I love the uniqueness of each arrondissement. And as I've said in every episode, but not every episode, but I've said previously, each arrondissement split into 4 quarters, and those 4 sections are sections within themselves. You could turn a corner and you've gone from yeah, absolutely. You walk from a market street into like a library. It's just,
that's what I love about it so much, is that it just changes every little turn you take. It can completely shift, and I like that about it. And you could just spend the whole time just walking around, and I think it's got kind of a uniqueness to it in each area. It's just lovely.
if I had to choose what top 5 museums, I would probably go to Louvre because it's so big and there is so much to explore. Don't make a beeline for the Mona Lisa. I know
it's tiny. It's really not what you think it is.
Yeah. Go there, but for me, again, you got people that want to go visit and like they want to. Don't just go for the Mona Lisa. There is, and the one woman that I always, especially this, is hark back to is Claudine Hemingway. She loves it. She knows the ins and outs. Now, I'm going to recommend booking Claudine for a Louvre tour, honestly. But there is so much. When we went, just us two, we covered a fraction. We spent a lot of time covering a fraction of it. When we went with the boys, we saw other bits. We went into the basement, saw the old wall. It's like, wow. But yeah, there is so much more in the Louvre than just the Mona Lisa. I love the Delacroix Freedom one, especially after having finally finished Les Mis. Not that it's connected as such, but it sort of happens after that. But anyway, so I would go to Louvre. I've not done many museums. I've mentioned it in the episode already and the next episode, so I'm going to leave my list of 5 at the Louvre, plus the ones that I've already mentioned and the ones to come. But one I will mention, which isn't in Paris, is my favourite, and it is heavily connected to Paris. You know where I'm going to say?
Yes.
Where am I going to say?
Wallace Collection.
I'm going to say Science Museum.
No. No.
Wallace Collection. Yeah.
Wallace Collection is lovely though. Like, it is totally different. You can feel Paris in the Wallace Collection. You really can. If you don't know where you are, you think you was in a Paris museum.
It sprung to mind when you said about museum cafes and coffee shops.
Oh, that one. So we went for your birthday, so yeah, no, that's another one. It's just, it is like, I do like going to museum coffee shops. I really do. I don't know what it is. Every single museum I go to, I want to go to their coffee shop, which is why I surprised myself by not going into the Petit Palais one. But I don't know. I just didn't. Whatever, for whatever reason, on that particular day, I didn't. But so maybe I didn't want a coffee. I don't know. But I would recommend them. I think they're all the museums have got a very different feel, as they do in London, as anywhere you go. And it depends what you want to see, I think. So if you do like art and you want to see a particular thing or a particular artist, then I think you kind of pick it on that basis. So I wanted to go Petit Palais because I do like Greek and Roman. So I went there looking particularly for those sculptures. And there was some in the Musée d'Orsay a little bit, but there's a lot more impressionists there. So it's very different, and there was a lot more sculptures as well. So I think it's just different what you want to explore. But for me, the Musée d'Orsay, what I loved about it, if you get all the art and everything in there, it was the building itself itself, it had so many different elements to it as you moved around. The actual building was beautiful.
From memory, and you can fact check this against a previous episode, that was built for one of the Universal Expositions to encourage people to come by train.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it was the first railway of Paris's railway.
Charles Pappas mentioned it in an interview with Charles Pappas.
I will listen. But I know it was the first railway, and I know that it lost its popularity in the mid-20th century, around that time. And then in the 1970s, correct me if I'm wrong, we sort of revived it and thought, no, we want to keep this building, and turned it into a museum. Yeah. Roughly.
That's very, very quick.
Very quick,
Yeah.
if you want to know a little bit of the history. But you can tell the building is really nice. I've always wanted to go, because you know when you walk past it on the outside, it's just got this, you can always see the clock, and it's just stunning.
Unless you go down the other side, down the side,
yeah.
which is.
But we walked this way to it, and it was on our right hand side, and we saw the clock, didn't we? You and I, yeah. We walked on the riverbank, didn't we? That way.
No, right.
Yeah, and also when we did the riverboat tour, we saw it.
Possibly 10K as well.
Possibly. I don't remember it then, but I do remember I was dripping with sweat and trying to run. Yeah. But so I think it just depends what you would want to see. As I said, I really want to go to it's the Orangery, isn't it, in the Tuileries. That's the next one I would love to go to.
Not open on Tuesdays?
No, it is not.
Was it Tuesday?
I think it was, because we tried to go and it was closed, wasn't it?
When they want to show. Hey, Uncle Griff.
But yeah, I would like to go to that one, I think.
I want to do Rodin's house.
Yeah, okay.
And not that I'm particularly interested or even actually want to go, but I'd like to try Edith Piaf's, because that's a privately owned, I suppose, memory museum of her. I was a huge fan that set that one up.
But then I think if you're not someone who wants to do where everybody goes, then go Petit Palais. So if you're someone who thinks, also Petit Palais is free. There is that, which I think is always a good selling point to some people, you know, because it can get very expensive. And if you're short for time and you just want to see something a bit different, Petit Palais would definitely be up there for me.
You didn't have a coffee in a night?
Yeah, in a courtyard, exactly. And just as nice, I think. So for me, Petit Palais would be up there. It's just lovely. I'm not saying Museum d'Orsay isn't somewhere to go. If you really want to go and you've always wanted to go, not just for the artwork that's in there, but the building itself, you do have to pay. I cannot remember how much it was, but you do have to pay to get in. You can do that, and it's the same hit list as you want to do the Louvre or those sorts of things.
As you now, I think the Museum Carnavalet, which I've walked past many times, not gone in, and I was tempted to when you actually on that November interview session when you came. I was opposite, and I was speaking to Barbara Lambesis, the Wallace Fountain lady, and she often goes in there. And so, all right, well, I'm going to go in there. It's the history of Paris. I've not been, still not been.
You should have gone in there.
She was big, but
you need to go in there.
I should, yeah. And I think it was Rodin's house that I almost went in last time I went, and it was shut for when there was it was shut, and it was shut for renovations. I'm sure it was his one. It's in the courtyard, and the entrance just on the left. Yeah. Well, that's it. We'll call it a wrap if you want.
Coffee Pot Conversations.
And that was very sweet. For those of you watching, you know that I've just had a sip of, well, you won't really know what it is, and for those of you listening, just let you know I did have a sip of something. It's a brown looking beverage. It is it's coffee blended with coconut milk, a banana, caramel syrup and French vanilla with ice. Not gonna lie, I kind of went a little with the caramel syrup, so yeah. Anyway, that was episode 6.3. Do you really need to visit the Louvre? And we're now into the conclusion part. So again, for those of you watching, it would have said conclusion. For those of you not watching, you would have heard Rory singing the show's jingle.
Coffee Pot Conversations.
In the conclusion part, I give a brief synopsis of what you've seen. So you would have seen me or heard me gabbling on, as well as Nev, who was first time in front of the camera for the show. So she was in the first episode. This isn't the last episode, don't worry. She's slowly catching up still. Slowly catching up. Anyway, I also mentioned, read out messages, things like that. So first of all, I just want to say a big, huge thanks to those of you in Australia and those of you in New Zealand who put me into your chart. So thank you very much for that. I don't know if you get it before everybody else, because I set it for UK launch time of 6 o'clock. And that's on Spotify and the major platforms, YouTube as well. Patreon gets it also 6 o'clock. My blog also gets it at 6 o'clock on the day of launch, which is the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month, January to June, January to May, July to November. I'm going to have to write that down somewhere. And so part of that is a huge happy birthday to Greg of Greg and Julia fame. They went to Paris to celebrate Greg's birthday. So what do you say? Bonne fête, joyeux anniversaire, or just happy birthday because, you know, they're from London. Well, not technically, but anyway. I've got to stop saying anyway. Anyway, moving on. We also have, it was my brother's birthday, so that's Uncle Lee to those of us in the family that are of a younger generation than myself, apart from his boys and his grandkids. So actually just to Rory and Jasper, he's Uncle Lee. So happy birthday, Lee. We've got Karen's coming up. That's his wife, or Auntie Karen, as the boys call her. So happy birthday to Karen. I don't actually know if either of them listened to the show. I know when Greg came down to visit my dad, or granddad, as the boys call him, he was asking if I was still doing it. So I don't know if he technically doesn't listen, because if he listened, he'd know. He does follow me on Instagram. But anyway, yes, I'm still doing the show. So happy birthday to Lee. Happy birthday to Karen. Possibly happy anniversary as well. But I think that might be October. I need to get my calendar sorted out. I also need to prep more. Maybe I should go back to scripting, who knows. So, talking to scripting, looking at these notes, that's pretty much it for the conclusion. So now it's time for Jasper's jingle.
Coming up on Coffee Pot Conversations.
Yeah, not any better. So, coming up, we have 6.4 Paris museums that most tourists never visit. Now I've got to start looking at the camera, which is here, rather than the screen, which is there, because my eyes go off centre. Maybe I should just turn and talk like this. For those of you listening, I'm just looking at different ways. Hopefully that you're not missing out too much, but you know that I am available to watch it on video on Spotify as well as on YouTube. Our podcast it's a pain in the bottom, so just, if you're on Apple, listen, enjoy. Savour the flavour of not having to watch me. Back to camera. So the news. It has already happened. I don't need to read the news, so very well done. Coming up in 6.4, we have Paris museums that most tourists never visit. And we also have, that's the second part of the museum. We have additional episodes coming up. Again, not made a list. I think it'll be September. So it's going to be, I believe, Baudelaire, unless I'm squeezing something in before that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but stick around. It's only another 2 weeks, or next episode. Maybe it was the previous episode. I don't know. But anyway, you'll be pleased to hear that that is enough rambling from me. So now, Rory, it's over to the outro. Thank you for tuning into Coffee Pot Conversations. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, make a comment on whichever platform it is that you use. If you're more of an email kind of person, that's fine. Email me, coffeepot@anenglishmaninparis.blog. If you prefer photos, that's also fine. @An Englishman in Paris blog on Instagram. Worst case, follow my blog, anenglishmaninparis.blog. Until next time, keep the coffee hot the pot warm and the conversation cool. Rory, it's over to you.
Coffee Pot Conversations.
Smarter camera.